All right, I have that it is 8:30, so we are going to get started. Welcome, welcome everybody. So glad you're here on this Friday morning. This session is being recorded. I see my little cloud working in the bottom, so hopefully it will work. Last week on another session, I had difficulty with that, but we're going to give it another shot today. And welcome to our second portion of Seesaw Cooking Up Activities. We are going to focus totally on your work today. We're going to create that activity from scratch. We're going to look at how to include movable parts into that activity. And we're going to end this session with how to organize things in Seesaw. It can get a little wieldy as you use it all year long. So I want to show you some tips and tricks on how to take care of the organization pieces in Seesaw itself. So last week when we met, we looked at how to edit activities, and I responded to some of you that had questions, and I sent you an email. If you didn't get an email from me, that means either A, I'm going to answer the question during the session at some point, or B, you didn't ask a question that needed an email from me. So speaking of that, we are a community of learners together, and I would like for you guys to know that and know other people that are working with you. So what I would like for you guys to do is open up your chat and introduce yourself, and this time I want you to put your name and your school and your grade level, and I want everybody noticing in the chat who's with us so you can reach out to other people that are in your school or on your grade level. Second grade starting us off strong. All right, I see a lot of elementary people in here, which is what I noticed when I was looking at our sign-in sheet from last week. We've got a few secondary people, but most of us are elementary, which is fine. Secondary people, I'm going to show you how this works for you too, so don't worry about that. But notice that there are a lot of second grade teachers, a lot of first grade teachers, and some kindergarten teachers that are in this group. So you guys are learning together. We're all on the same standard course of study. We're all basically working through the same unit guides. So why don't we work together? So as you guys start creating activities or editing things that you find, reach out to these people that are with us today, and let's just build a little community within Gaston County Schools, the people that are using Seesaw, and let's share our work. Let's work smarter so we can share things together. All right, so evidence of learning, we're taking this up step by step each time. So when we met last, as I've already mentioned, you guys found an activity inside of the Seesaw library and you just did a simple edit. Today, we're going to build an activity from scratch, and you're going to submit that link to me once you have that completed, and you may not get it completed while we're together. So you have until Wednesday, May the 13th, before I pull up that form and look at everything that's submitted and send you guys feedback on it. I do want you to answer the question about what do you define as your next steps in this, and I especially want to know what you want to learn more about. I have a plan for session 3, but I also want to include anything that you guys still need to know before we wrap this up. So a couple of questions that were asked that I felt benefited the whole entire group. So I wanted to talk about these 2 questions that came from the form. Several people asked. So one of them was the artifacts. You guys haven't used Seesaw with your students as of yet, and we can't use new learning with them because of the frustration it would cause for them, their parents, and you. So your solution is that you guys are going to use your sample student in your account, and you're going to create an example of what your students would actually do on your activity. And it can be any of the 3 activities by the time we get to the end. So there is a sample student in your class, and if you haven't turned it on, I'll show you where it is. and you can just go in as sample student and complete the work as a student. A couple of you asked about how to differentiate the activities. You can copy and edit your activity as many times as you need to, and then you can assign it to specific students. So once you click the Assign button and you choose your class, you will notice that you have an Edit Students tab. And when you click that, the screenshot that you see over on the right-hand side is what pops up, and you can just put a check mark in front of the students that you want to have assign that particular activity. So any questions on those two things? All right. So we are going to work on creating our own activities. So I want to give you guys the big picture overview with all of the screenshots that are in this presentation, because that way when you go back and look at the presentation when you need to, you're going to remember kind of what I said as we went through the slides. So just like we did when we were looking for an activity in the community library, we click on the big green plus and we go into Assign Activity. And instead of clicking on community and searching, the very first choice that pops up under My Library is Create New Activity. So we'll click that. And let's remember that the key components of a Seesaw activity include some kind of multimedia example. In our case today, it's going to be the template that we are creating that will show up in this window. You're going to give concise directions. We're going to use those visual cues. If you remember last Friday, I gave you the little tidbit about colon, put the word in and then colon. That makes the little icons. I would like to see you give the family a why, especially if you're using it now. But even if you use it when we start school back, I think this is powerful. So when they look at their students' work, they can see exactly why their students need to learn this or have something to do with the content. Those of you that teach younger students, you're probably going to want to put in the audio recording of your instructions. So when we go in just a few minutes together and we click that Create New Activity, this screen is going to pop up and you notice it's all blank, but it's not that scary. It really kind of walks you through what you're going to do. So we'll have a name, we'll put in student instructions, and we'll add the template that you guys were supposed to create for your assignment for today. If you want to use Multimedia Tools, which we're going to when we get in there, remember we have the same tools available to us as our students have. So when they go into their journal, they see these icons and they can do a picture, they can do a video, they can upload files. We have those same tools. So I've given you a screenshot and a reminder of what each of those tools will do for you. So when we upload files, there's a couple of things that you have to remember. And if you remember last week, I asked that you create your file either with slides or drawings and have it in Google Drive. You can also upload PDF files, images, which are JPEGs, movies or videos, PNG files, which are pictures without any backgrounds to them, other types of videos, okay? You do have a 1 megabyte limit for pictures and you have a 500 megabyte limit for videos. You have to keep things a little bit short. When you're using the video feature inside of Seesaw, you and your students have up to 5 minutes to record the video. If you're doing comments on it, you have a 2-minute recording. Those are the limits. So on slide number 11, I have put an icon with the, or an image rather, with all the little icons on it. So you'll see the colon, Seesaw colon, if you want the Seesaw emblem on there, colon, add colon, which we will be using. So you'll see all of your codes, but it's also linked on this slide if you need that. And then I have also included 2 possible sites to grab some emojis. Yes, emoji is just really type. So we can put emojis inside of Seesaw a couple of different ways. You can put them in your instructions, and you also can put them in as a movable piece on your template. And guys, again, just like last week, if you have questions or if I'm going too fast, this is very informal. Please just unmute your microphone and say your question or tell me to slow down. Also, remember, Christy's running the chat in the background, so she'll be happy to answer you as well. So here's our cheat sheet on slide 12. Again, I've tried to break it down for you so you'll have everything that you need when I'm not right beside of you or in front of you in this case, of what you're going to do. So those instructions are there. Now, before we get in there, I want to talk to you about possible ways to make your movable parts. We're going to use Seesaw to make the actual labels to move. So several of you, I've known you for a long time. We were around when the smart boards came out and you guys made interactive activities with draggable icons and stuff like that. Seesaw is the closest answer to coming back to anything like that. And what I like about it is each student has their own. So 15 other kids didn't have to watch one walk up and do something on a smart board. Everybody can do it on their own Chromebook. So the way that we add labels is not as robust as Smartboard was, so know that up front. We used to could put like images and things in, and we cannot do that with Seesaw. We have to use what's available. So what's available are the labels that usually take text, but this is where our emojis come in. And we also can use shapes, and I'll show you that I think on another slide. So on slide 13, what I have demonstrated is we're going to go in and we're going to click on the T, and we can build text boxes. So the first example that I have given you, I pulled in the emoji eyes with instructions, watch video. And that's coming for next week, by the way. So I'm using it with text, and in Seesaw, the students would be able to drag and drop that text box wherever it needs to be on my template. You also can use emojis as just a standalone. So you'll see that I grabbed this emoji, brought it in, and there is nothing on the box except for the emoji picture. Does that make sense? Are there any questions on that? I want to make sure you're clear before we get in there and play around with it.
Can you explain that again, please?
Kelly, you're breaking up. Can you repeat that, please?
Can you explain that again, please?
Yes. When we get into Seesaw, once we get our template uploaded, we are going to use the labels to make our movable pieces for the students to do. So our labels can include emojis to dress them up a little bit. So instead of just having just plain old text, which is what labels are designed for, it's just designed for just typing, just text, we can add emojis to it to dress it up a little bit. Or we can just use emojis and not have anything typed. So if there is an image in an emoji that will work for my template, I can bring that emoji in. Does that help? Okay, good. I see her nodding her head. All right, another way that you can bring in labels or have students be able to move things is the shape library. You can use those as well. The students can drag and drop shapes that you add to the template, and they can also be combined with the emojis. So notice I was just being funny here. I put a watermelon slice in the thought cloud. So to find labels to add to our template, we go to the three dots, and it pops up several different kinds of shapes. Again, it's not as robust as what Smart Notebook had, but it will work for what we need it to. So labels with text, where we're going to hack it a little bit, if you will, and use emojis too, and or shapes. While we're in there, if you put any object on your template that you don't want students to move, then you're going to lock it. And this should sound very much like it used to with Smart Notebook. You can lock it by clicking on the 3 dots, and notice lock is in my menu. But wait for it. You can also duplicate objects. So in Smart, we used to could make the object have an infinity. That means that there was as many there as the students ever needed. We don't have the infinity option, but we can duplicate and stack them on top of each other. So let's say if students are using the squares, I can duplicate the squares 10 times and stack them on top of each other, and they will have 10 squares to drag onto their template. Are there any questions? I'm hearing crickets. Actually, I'm hearing birds chirping outside my window, but from y'all, I'm hearing crickets. All right, that means it's creation time. So we're going to work together as a team to start building our activity. So if you guys are ready, open up a tab and go to your Seesaw account. Now let's have some fun. Again, stop me if I'm going too fast. So let's click on the green plus. Choose the thing in the middle, assign activity. And that opens up the My Library portion of Seesaw. Very first choice under My Library, you guys should see Create New Activity. So go ahead and click that plus sign. And our activity template opens up and we are ready to go. So think about that template that you made for your homework. What is it? So I'm going to name my activity, and you guys remember my example I showed you. It was an animal cell. It's actually for biology. So I am going to type in label parts of this animal cell. And so I've kind of cheated because I want to be able to help you guys. I have actually typed out my instructions ahead of time, so I'm going to copy and paste. Actually, I'm going to go to this part and pull it in. So what you guys are going to do now in the instructions, you're going to go back to our presentation on slide number 11 and look at the text shortcuts that you're going to type. And you are going to pull in the word colon that you need. And all of you will need the very first one where it says type the add colon button, because this is an activity that they're actually going to have to add a response to. Yes, Kelly, you can use a slide. It will bring, yes, you can bring slides in. You can bring multiple ones in. So yes, we can pull from Google. So I'm going to hush a minute and let you guys work on creating your activity. Ask me questions while you're typing.
Can you repeat what you said about the very first thing we all need to add to the instructions?
Yes, because we're creating an activity for your students, they have to go under their activities tab. They have to actually know to click the add button. So you're going to, where I have it on the screen and I've highlighted it right now, tap the colon, add colon button. And there's two reasons for that. One is if you ever decide you want to share your activities out to the community, that's kind of like a standard that they want. And two, again, it depends on your students, whether they're going to know automatically to click that green button or not.
And then you want us, for every chance that we can, to have like a little symbol or emoji in front of the step, each step of the problem. Is that correct?
You don't have to have an emoji for each step. That's up to you if you want to decorate it. My example, I'm not putting any emojis in on this part at all, but you can if you want to.
But I mean, not just emojis. I mean, like a symbol. Like you want us to
Oh
do
yeah, you need to use the symbols for Seesaw. So they know, like, they're going to have to click the hand, which is colon, move, colon, to be able to drag and drop anything that you're going to make. If you're going to have them record, then you need to put the mic icon just so they know. Shelley, that cheat sheet is on slide 11. Remember, guys, the colon word, the colon symbol, and any words you put in the middle and closing the colon is Seesaw's way of knowing what icon to put. And you want your students to be able to know that they're going to have to click the microphone. They're going to have to move their, use their hand to move things. The hand symbol is on the bottom of the template when the students go in and actually work. And they have tools across the bottom, and the hand is the symbol to let them know when they click the hand, it's a drag and drop motion. Just like if you click on the pencil, it's a drawing motion or a writing motion. Yes, Christy, remind me, I will go back and show how to add a sample student when we get to showing how to do work out as a student. Just don't let me forget it.
Teresa,
Yes.
so if you want to do a sort and you can't add pictures for them to sort, whether it be phonic sounds, books, numbers, counting things, etc. How do you do that? You said I know you said you could add emojis.
Right,
But-
Laura, you can add emojis. So like if I'm doing a phonics sort, I'll think of all those emojis. Then I don't think just the face emojis, because there's books in there, there's cakes in there, there's donuts in there. So think about all the different kinds of emojis you have. So if I'm doing a phonics sort, I could find probably an emoji picture to go with that. If you're doing number sorts, you can just type. Or you can use as many emojis as you need for the number. So like there's fish in there, there's different kinds of fish. So I could put 3 fish in a little box together. Does that make sense? It may make more sense once we get in there and actually do that part.
Yes, I was just personally thinking of like a book sort, like sorting fiction versus nonfiction. And so I was just trying to figure out how I could do that.
You can't bring images in of books. Somebody else had asked that in the chat or emailed me or something, and I had sent them that, no, you can't do that. This is not robust enough for that.
Okay. That's what I needed to know. I'm still trying to recreate that's flash
Smart. Yeah. You're
smart
not.
sort.
Yeah. And remember, the flash stuff is old anyway. By the end of the year, it's not going to be even anything that's flash is not going to work. So much so that now Chrome has already turned it off. You have to specifically go in and turn Chrome on to run anything that's flash.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome. Remember, guys, if you want to, you can add voice instructions for your students. And would you do that? You just click on it, allow your microphone, and then you click the button to begin recording. And then what you do is just read your instructions so those students that need that extra help would have it. I'm not going to do that for my example, but you guys are welcome to. And if you don't want to do it now, you can always come back in and edit your activity even once we save it.
Teresa, if one of the directions is to solve a problem and we don't care whether they bring in, you know, shapes to solve their problem or if they write it with their pencil marker or whatever, how would you tell them to do that?
I would just say solve the problem with whatever methods work for you or something like that. Whatever you would normally tell your students. Don't worry about putting any of the Seesaw codes in for that. Unless
Okay,
you want to get specific, you could say solve the problem using colon, drawing, colon to have the pencil, or colon, shapes, colon to have shapes. Laura, I may have just thought of a way. I mean, you can't give the students their book pictures for them to sort, but they could use the camera and take pictures, possibly. I'll have to play with that. We'll look at that when we're in there building my template, maybe. All right, guys, I can't walk around and see your screen, so I need to know where you guys are. Are we ready to move on to putting our template in place, or are you still typing instructions? Okay, still typing. Cool, I'll give you some time. All right, I see some questions in the chat that I'm going to address. Those of you that popped in late, I'm sorry that you were late, but we're gonna start each time. So no, next Friday, right at 8:30, I'm jumping in with instruction because it takes our whole hour just to get this piece done. That's why I'm giving you assignments outside. I am doing a recording of this, so you will have that opportunity to get the link. You'll just need to send me an email to let me know that you need it. Hopefully it records. Last week I had issues and it did not save the recording. So please, next Friday, try to pop in at least 5 minutes ahead of time so you're ready to start. As far as knowing what to type, Lisa, what do you want your students to do? You've got to give your student instructions. And especially if you're using it today where they're doing remote learning, you've got to be as detailed in those instructions of what you want them to do. So think about the template that you made for your assignment. What do you want your students to do with that work? What's the end goal? What are they going to show you with their work so you know that they have learned something? Yes, you can always go back and edit and record your work later. good, Allison. That's what I was thinking, the camera where we could upload that. So we'll try that. Yes, you can always come back and edit your instructions. So once we build the template, if you realize, oh, I've left something out, you can come back in and add anything to those instructions. So don't panic over that. I know, I do too, I get it. See, I cheated because of time. I wanted to get my typed stuff in there, so I typed mine ahead of time.
Teresa, one more question.
Sure.
Can they take a screenshot of their work in Seesaw?
Not in Seesaw, but they can come, well, it depends on what you're talking about. They can take a screenshot of anything at any point, but in Seesaw, there's not a screenshot function unless the camera lets you do that, and I don't remember that it does. We'll look at it. If they have their work somewhere else and they're bringing it in, when you take a screenshot, it's a picture, so they can bring it in as that.
Well, I was thinking if they did the sort and I wanted to make sure to check their understanding, how could I see it without physically going around to each student?
They're going to submit it to their journal. So it will pop into your journal feed, and then you'll be able to click in the activities folder to check it, or just go through your journal feed and look at each one.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Teresa, if we used a template from that resource that you gave us, and do we need to have a different title? Like if they named it a certain title, does our title need to reflect a different one?
Your title can be whatever makes sense for you and your students.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Every child will have a copy, Lisa. Yes, unless you decide you want to differentiate and only a few of your students get it. But think of it kind of like classroom. When you create something and you assign it out to their kids, everybody has their own. And your template stays intact. So whatever happens with the student work, nothing happens to your template.
If we had an activity where they're supposed to pull in pictures or something like that, or like something we wanted them to create on slides, is that something they're capable of doing? Like, when you're on slides, you can, replace an image to, change the image. Is that something that they can do on Seesaw, or is that something we should just stick with slides if we're going to use that type of template?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, I would stick with slides for that particular thing. Because when you bring in the slides, unless you put it in as a link, it's going to open as it, and I'll show you, it's a static background.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So guys, if I give you about 1 more minute, will you be ready to add your template? Okay. All right, so that was about a minute. If you're not finished typing your instructions, it's okay. Take a breath, because you can come back and you can do that at any time, even after we click save, and I'll show you that. All right, so now we're going to, for this week, we're going to skip add multimedia instructions or examples. That's going to be our focus next week, and oh boy, we're going to have fun with that. So let's go down to the section where it says student template and click add template for student responses. So in the presentation, I reminded you we have the exact same options that students have as far as the resources to make our templates. But we're going to upload our template because I asked you guys to make it in Google. So we're going to click upload. And notice that we can select from the computer or we can select from Google Drive. And it's telling us what we can add. So let's take a moment and look at what we can add. You can have 10 images. And I really should have pulled up our ITF free one because you may be different. Remember, I'm a Seesaw ambassador. So I have extra functionality and I'm trying to stay away from that extra functionality. So you guys pay attention to what it says here, what you guys can upload, and I won't read what's on my screen. So let's click select from Google Drive and find your image or your Google slide or your Google drawing. So I'm going to type in the title that I named it. And guys, remember you can pull in the picture of it, or you can even pull it in from Google Drawing or pull it straight in from Slides because we're pulling from Google. So I'm going to pull in the Google Drawing of it instead of the picture because the picture is the one that actually is my answer key in this particular example. So I'm going to click on my template and I'm going to click select, or I can do a double click either way to get it into Seesaw. So I'll wait a second and get you guys there. Kelly, do a refresh. Or wait, what kind of error? Check your file and see if your file is okay. Again, it's hard to troubleshoot when I'm not right there at you looking at your computers. All right, so let's take a moment. Go ahead, Kelly.
It says API developer key is invalid. I didn't even get a chance to put anything in. I just clicked on open drive or whatever it said on the bottom.
Okay.
She's not the only one getting that. I got a chat to somebody else getting the error message. Same thing.
All right. It could be issues with Seesaw. So my best bet is either try your back arrow or do a refresh.
Okay. Thank you.
Guys, I'm going to reiterate this. I think I've said it in almost every training that I'm doing. Because we're in the situation that we're in right now, we are testing the limits of not only tools that we're using online, but the internet itself. That's why I do my sessions in the morning, because by the afternoon, my internet is shaky at best. So yay, Darlene says she hit the back arrow and tried it again and it worked. So those of you that are having that error message, do your back arrow. We just have to give grace, not only to one another, but to the tools and stuff that we're using. Try not to get too frustrated. So before we start building our movable pieces for our template, I want to go through the lay of the land really fast. So at the bottom of your screen, you see the tools. And this is why I was saying about the hand. And you'll notice that the hand even has the pointer finger up with the square around it, denoting that that is the only way that you're going to be able to move anything on the screen. And then you have, of course, your pen tools and your erasers and all of that wonderful stuff at the bottom. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, we have our T that we're going to bring in our labels. And we have the 3 dots where we can grab shapes if you're so choosing to do that. This image on the screen that we have brought in is static. Nothing on this image can be moved at all. That's why we have to add those layers inside of Seesaw. And then finally, over on the right-hand side of the screen, you see the color palette of things that we can do for colors. So let's start by adding a label. So click on the T and it pops the label in place. So mine is easy. I'm doing high school biology review example. So I just actually have to type in text. But let's say that I want to bring in some kind of emoji. I want to show you guys how to do that. So I link those, remember, on slide number 11, Emoji Copy and Emojipedia. I actually like Emojipedia a little bit better because it allows me to search. Of course, they're not going to have a sale because I know there's not one other than, so I'm going to use a microscope. So I've searched for an emoji in my favorite, which is Emojipedia, but you can go to any of them. If you're working on a computer where you've got your emoji keyboard enabled, you could use that as well. I'm going to click on the microscope in Emojipedia, and then I'm going to click copy and pop back over into my text box and paste it in. So there you see I have an emoji added to my text. Once I click off of my cell, I have some options, and I want to talk about those as well. So I have the 3 dots at the bottom. This is where I could get to duplicate. So if I need this same text more than once, I can duplicate this text box. If for some reason I don't want them to mark to move it, I could lock it. You can change the style. So I want to talk about style for a second. So I'm hovering over style, and it's limited to what I can make my text look like a little bit. I'm going to choose feather just to change the text font a little bit. Notice under style though, you have 3 circles with the letter A inside of them. The first circle will be one that doesn't have any outline around it. So if you want a text box, or when I bring in just an emoji, I don't want the box around it. That's what I would choose. Right now, I have it selected where I have it outlined in black, or I could flip it over to be a black background and white text. If I don't like black as my background, I can go over to my color slider and choose whatever color I want it to be. If I want it to be this dark royal blue, I can do that. I can resize it, and then I can drag it off of my image into any of the white space on this palette and drop it in place. So my students will be able to drag and drop and place this cell membrane where it belongs in the diagram. So I'm getting some, ooh, cool, awesome, good, good. You don't always have to put an emoji in. Honestly, if I were truly going to give this to high school kids that are reviewing this from, they're supposed to learn it in middle school, but it's a review function in biology 1. I would not necessarily put the icons or the emojis, although they love them. Darcy, they can add labels, yes, but I would like for you to play around with making one that's drag and drop, because that was our focus for today. So this, just make one for this. So I could keep clicking on the text and adding in my next text box for the kiddos to move around. And I could stack them on top of each other, or I could just put them just around the board. Now, Lauren, you're getting ahead of me. Yeah, I'm getting ready to show you that.
If you didn't want to add text, but say you want to create like a 10 frame or some, 10 blocks or something like that, that they can pull over and put in the thing, is that okay?
Yes. And Rebecca, you may want to use shapes for that. All right, so let me show you how to just use an emoji as a drag and drop, okay? So I'm going to click on the text again, and I am going to go back and I'm just going to change it to the very first circle where it doesn't have an outline around it and it doesn't have a background to it. So now I'm going to go back over to my Emojipedia and I'm going to search for a fish. So I'm going to look at this tropical fish. I'm going to do copy, pop back over to my Seesaw and paste this fish into my text box. Now he's tiny. So when I click off the text box and I can get my resizer, I can resize him. I can go in and on style, make him go over just to one side instead of being in the center of the text box. See? So how do you resize? You click off of the text box and you'll have these white handles. Grab any of those corner handles and resize it. So I could have whatever emojis that I need. Now I hope that makes more sense since you guys have seen the emoji pieces that I was talking about. So Laura, this is what I wanted to test for you. I'm going to do camera. So yes, if you, the kids can take their pictures or they can upload. So they can have their own books that they're sorting for you there. The other option to add movable parts is under the 3 dots in the shapes menu. I can pull any of these shapes in. So I could click on the heart, bring that in. I can click on it and I can duplicate that heart as many times as I want to. And then stack them so the students will be able to drag and drop from that stack. All right, so questions.
Did you say there was a way to get to emojis that Seesaw has put on or
No,
created?
Seesaw doesn't have any emojis built in. You either use those 2 links that I gave you, or if your device has been enabled where you can do emojis on it, like an iPad, for example, if you're doing Seesaw app, on the iPad itself, you can switch over to your emoji keyboard. There are shortcuts for MacBooks for emojis. There's probably shortcuts for PCs too. I'm not a PC girl, so I don't know that for sure. Chromebook, you can pull up your on-screen keyboard in Chrome and find your emoji keyboard. To me, it's just easier to go to this encyclopedia and search for stuff that I want. So I'm going to give you guys a few moments to play around with that and try it out and ask questions. And it's really just a few moments. You're not going to be able to finish. This is why we have to, I mean, our whole hour is slammed full. Control V as in victory will do your paste. Command if you're on a Mac.
Teresa, my template is taking up the entire space that I have available there. So like, see where you have your heart and your fish. I have no extra space out there.
What did you use for your template? Is it a picture or do you bring it in from slides or drawings?
From slides.
That's weird because usually slides and drawings brings it in exactly right. Do you have any space where like I could actually move the fish and the heart like here? Do you have any space like that?
No. It picks up the whole thing.
Go ahead and do the best you can with it and then save it and share that link with me so I can look at it.
Okay.
Teresa, I had a similar problem. I mean, I do have a little bit of space, but when I created my template, I did it in drawing and I changed the page setup. So I changed it from being for whatever the standard is to like wide for something. So
yeah,
I don't know if that might be the problem.
Yeah, that could be it. But normally though, seriously, unless you do change the ratio of your slides, normally it brings it in just right. So that's why I'm just weird.
Teresa,
Yes, ma'am.
every time I click on like the camera, the microphone, or the text, it keeps asking me if I want to do a 60-day annotate.
In Seesaw?
Let me do anything.
I know right now they're offering like a free trial of what I have as an ambassador or what some schools pay for. Just tell it no, I guess.
Well, I click out of it, and then when I click on the T again, it gives it to me again. It's not allowing
It's
me to
aggravating,
do
I'm
it.
sure. Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to go into our free account that we have as a
This is hard.
ITF team and see what it's doing.
Okay, I'll see if I can get it to do anything.
And remember, you have until next Wednesday for this, so don't panic for today. So speaking of which, looking at our time, so go ahead and click the check mark. Even if you're not finished, it's okay. You can come back and edit at any time. And click save. I know you're not through. It's okay. That's why I'm giving you to Wednesday. So when you click save, you'll notice in the multimedia section, it's pulled in all of the stuff that I've worked on. So they see their little template. They also see the template that's attached. So now I'm going to click assign so I can show you guys that sample student. I'm going to choose my class. I'm going to edit students, and I'm actually only going to assign it to my sample student. because I don't want any of my other kiddos to see it right now. You may not have sample student active yet. That's okay. You guys don't have to do this part yet. So I'm assigning to sample student. I'm going to click the check mark and assign. So now I'm going back to my class and I'm going to go to my journal, and here's my sample student. I'm going to go into the activities folder, add response, and now I see the template, and I can click view instructions if I need to, again, to see that. So as a student, I can do all this work, check it, and send it to my teacher. So if you do not, for those of you that are not using it with kids right now, if you don't have sample student turned on, go to your wrench. No, Jamie, you only lock the whole thing. There's no way to change, lock the text at this point because it's all one unit. Go under students in your class settings, and the very last section in the students part is enable sample student. So just toggle that on. So you have sample student that you can work as a teacher. So again, that's wrench. Scroll down to the student section. Very last one, enable sample student. All right, so we're back to our presentation. I want to really quickly talk to you about organizing. I have screenshots on here, and I'm pretty sure that I have gathered enough resources at the end that you guys are going to be okay. So there's a couple ways that you can organize your material in Seesaw. It's collections and there's folders. Collections are used to organize your activities only. And you, as a teacher, are the only one that can see that you have them in collections. Under the free account, you can only have 2 collections. So in my screenshot, I'm showing you guys that I've added a math collection and a reading collection because that would probably be the 2 subjects that I use it in the most. And you don't have to use these. It's fine if you just want everything in your library. The only thing that a collection will do is I can go under my library. So let me flip over there really quickly. I'm in my library, scrolling down, looking at my collections. If I want to see what's in my math folder or my math collections, I can filter out all of this stuff in my activity library just to see math. That's the only benefit to it. But when you have 100 in your free account, that may become beneficial for you to be able to sort at least into 2 collections. All right, going back. Folders organize the post for your students. And this I do use when I'm doing examples for teachers and working with them setting up their classes, is I help them put things in folders. Because just like any other social media feed, you get lost in all of that stream, but you can go into folders and see things easier. So it's organizing the posts that the students are putting in, all of their work that they're giving you. Again, it doesn't organize as an activity, it's organizing what students are posting. And that gives you a way to filter. So the way that you can get to folders, I'm going to flip back over to my Seesaw. I am going to click on my journal tab. And the very first thing on the right-hand side of my screen under journal, I have the big gray box, and all the way to the right-hand side, I have a folder. So I'm going to click folder, and all of the ones that I have created will show up. Notice also that I have put emojis here because if I have young learners like kindergarten, I want them to know they're going to click on the open book to do reading fluency. I want them to know they're going to click on the stack of books to do their book snap, and so forth. If I need to add a folder, I click Manage Folders and Create. So I can create whatever folder I want to, type it in, copy and paste that emoji, color it. So if I want to close that out, if I want to filter out by those folders, I just click on that folder, click the folder I want to filter out for, and then scroll through and look at everything that's under reading fluency. As far as I know, there is not a limit to your folders. There's just a limit to collections. But you don't want to get too wild with folders either. So think clearly about how you want to organize those.